It is 6 o'clock on Tuesday, May 21st, 2019. I'll call the meeting to order, and the first thing we'll do is stand for a moment of silent reflection. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Deputy Hendricks.
Yes, the first delegation the liquor license at Sydenham Ridge Estates. I have no fiduciary. It's an indirect conflict. I am a preferred vendor at the site.
Is there anyone else? Seeing none, before we move on to the rest of the agenda, just want to make note that we're in the lower level of the township office tonight because of our potential of having several people for the public meeting for the special policy areas, which is scheduled for 7:30. So hopefully we will be distracted by the people coming into the council chamber, and hopefully they'll respect that the council meeting is continuing on while they do so. We do have a number of timed events. So at 6:05 we have Peter Budd attending regarding the liquor license for sale of alcohol on premise. At 7:05 we have a minor variance application A06-2019, and then followed, as I mentioned, at 7:30 for the public meeting for the special policy areas. We do have one item to add onto our agenda, and that is a report from our CAO treasurer, and it's regarding the transfer for fire inspection services. Where did our clerk go? Oh, okay. Okay, so we have a mover and seconder to add this on. Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. And Kathy, the recorder is on, correct?
I am not sure.
Okay, we're just going to wait until Jennifer comes back. There's a, I guess we'll just, yeah, we'll wait till Jennifer comes back just to be sure. Where are you? Is there a little red light? Okay, excellent. So we sat there for a while for no reason. What we're going to do is we're going to continue on with the correspondence, and then we'll head back to our 6:05 delegation, and hopefully in that time Jennifer, our clerk, will be back down here. So the upcoming conferences, seminars, and meetings. The next regular meeting is Monday, June 3rd, followed by June 17th and July 8th. The first item for correspondence is the Chamber of Commerce Biz After Biz. Item number 2 is from Four Counties Foundation, and it's the grand reopening on June 6, 2019. Item number 3 is from the Thames Valley District School Board, and it's the annual Community Planning and Facilities meeting. Item number 4 is from the City of Stratford, the Civic Night Invitation, June 18, 2019, as well as the Four Counties Foundation 25th Annual Foundation Golf Tournament. The next section is the recommended readings. Item number 6 is from the St. Clair Regional Conservation Authority, and it's their Phase 2 municipal contribution, as well as their funding request for Phase 2 floodplain mapping. Councillor McKinnon?
Mainly, the problem arose from the cutbacks from the provincial government. Their funding's been cut back severely.
So they realize that some of our budgets are set, but if we could just say that we were either for this proposal for the new floodplain mapping or opposed to it, they'd appreciate it. And if we could see ourselves clear to pay the levy this year, they'd really appreciate that.
Councillor Clark?
So are we not just gonna be assessed that anyway? Irregardless of
Well-
whether we're for it or against it, doesn't matter, they've downloaded it to
They'll
us.
assess it next year. If we can't pay it this year, they will assess it next year, likely in their budget, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So continue on.
Yes.
All right, the next one, item number 7, is from the Saddle Bayfield Conservation Authority, and it's their April 18th, 2019 board meeting minutes, their GM report dated May 16th, 2019, and their May 16th, 2019 agenda for their board of directors. Item number 8 is from Blue Water Recycling, and it's their May 16th meeting notes. Item number 9 is from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and it's more homes, more choices. Item number 10 is from Health Canada, illegal marketing of infrared saunas. Item number 11 is from the OPP, Comprehensive Ontario Police Services Act 2019. Item 12 is from Mr. and Mrs. Stubbs, and it's an email of concern regarding biosolids. And then item number 13 is from Gail Cahill, and it's letters of concern from the township residents regarding a proposed biosolids storage facility. And there's a number of letters there. Is there any questions on the recommended readings? Okay, and because there is a long list of action required items, what we're going to do is go back to our timed delegation for 605. And that's Peter Budd, and it's regarding the liquor license for sale of alcohol on premises. And you can come forward to the podium. Good.
Thanks.
I'm just sit back.
Good evening, Your Worship. How are you doing? I think this is the first time that I have been here in about 20 years asking for something, and appreciate the opportunity, and I will be briefer than even the 15 minutes, so we'll go on more quickly. I'm here as the property owner of 1782767 Ontario Inc. We rent that small property to Sydenham Bridge Estates, which I'm a 50% owner with my business partner in that. And I just wanted to say, for the benefit of everybody who I have met some of you and haven't met others, that this Sydenham Bridge Estates was conceived in 2015. Did a test run in 2016. Seemed to be going all right, so we formalized that little organization in 2017, and we ran it in 17 and 18, and we haven't started yet, but soon for 2019. And the purpose behind was to provide a fixed location for local family and community events, and weddings is the primary thing we started with, but it has done a few other things for the neighborhood, Optimist gatherings, and a little concert. We've got some other fundraisers coming at some point. We, of course, worked very closely with Mr. Denemy, who's your building inspector, and I just want to say he did a great job helping us get it all figured out, get it safe, and get it started, and we're appreciative of that. So, so far so good. We are not doing anything this year that is different from anything we've done in the other 2 years, because we're still testing the economics to make sure this is a business that will work. And so there's no additions going on, there's no septic systems happening, there's no kitchens happening, and no additions of any kind. And we're just going to see how it goes this year. But one thing we thought we would do is we would have a little more control over the liquor license situation. And rather than having individual Saturdays with individual families going and asking for that, we just get it and have it for the year and control it. So anyway, we had a good time coming to understand further how all that works, because until you do something for the first time, you can't really know. So, and I've never done that before. Even though I've built a lot of things and had a lot of fun, I've not done that. So went and looked at it and came here, and Aaron helped us understand that we really do have to go get an official plan change at some point. And anytime you go to get a permit, you're supposed to be doing that. So that didn't happen in the first 3 or so years because it wasn't apparently necessary. And now it will be necessary, particularly if we do move on and grow this business. And anyway, we're here to say and to ask that we will and commit to that we will go ahead and apply for an official plan. I've already got a lawyer I'm looking at hiring and talking to planners, and we'll make that change. And I understand it may take 6 months, 8 months, even a year, and that's fine. We could do that just for the part of the property where we're doing this, and that's my commitment as property owner to you. But what I need from you for the 2019 year, so you can time limit it and you can contain it, is to just do a special resolution, the lawyer said to me today, which just allows for us to have that for a year. And then we could have you sign off on the liquor license just for this year, and we'll have to go and get whatever permits we need in accordance with the official plan in a future year. So it's relatively simple. I decided it's just not my area of expertise. But the lawyer was quite clear to me today that there is a section in the Act, and I'm happy to deal with any of you offline if you wish to consider it for some time. But it's got to be reasonably soon if you could. And I'm going to just read you this one section that seemed rather pertinent. So, this is from the public notice of application section that council sent to me today, and I will forward it to you, but just for the purposes of today, because we're on camera and on the record. Pardon me for scrolling here. Okay, so section 7.1, sub 1 says that in the absence of evidence to the contrary, the registrar shall consider resolution of the council of the municipality in which are located the premises for which a person makes an application to sell liquor or holds a license to sell liquor as proof of the needs and the wishes of the residents of the municipality for the purposes of clause 6(2)(h) of the Act, and then it goes on to show where all the regs are. It's far too long to read. I'm happy to provide that to you. So I'm simply offering you this, that if you said, okay, that's great, you're going to go do the OP change for that part of the land, which I have committed to you we will do. And we'll hire all the planners and people we need to do that. What I'm asking for is for you to consider passing a resolution of the council of this municipality for a 1-year period, which allows us to have more blanket control over what's going on the weekend. So that's really it. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. And I'm happy to take a reference from you to work with anybody in your council staff if that's what council decides it would like to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Is there any questions from members of council? Okay, we do have a recommendation from staff, and it's that staff be directed to prepare a report on the requirements from the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario for obtaining a permanent liquor license. Somebody wants to make that motion, or okay, and a seconder?
I'll just comment. So, can we look into this, what Peter has said to, so that's all part of it? Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure.
So that's moved by Councillor McKinnon and seconded by Councillor Brody. Okay, any further discussion? Councillor Clark?
I think I don't want it to be a year. I'd like it to be resolved before you open your season next year, if it's, because you were saying to me it's related to the wedding.
Yeah.
So I would like to see it a little tighter in the
Sure.
timeline if possible.
Yep, well, that's good. Let's put it this way, Councillor Clark. we will make all haste to get it done. We will get on with the OP application now, as I've committed. And if you're so kind as to grant the resolution that's requested, we can do it before the season starts. Season usually starts in May, and I'm happy to have it done by the end of the year if we can, this calendar year.
Okay. So the motion that's on the floor is that staff be directed to prepare a report. It's not for approval for what is being asked.
Well,
Councilor Brody?
She can include that resolution.
I like
under
that.
section
I would
7.
like that included in,
Okay,
we
so
go ahead and do whatever we can for this resolution.
Or you wanting to-
We're receiving the report, and we'll include that in the discussion.
yeah, so what after this, if this motion is passed, then staff will prepare a report, and then when it comes back to council, then we can make a decision, unless you're asking that you're wanting to make it right now.
I'm fine with the decision now, but we need, like, this needs to move on pretty fast, basically, is my understanding, correct?
July 1 is the real date for when we need, to get started with it. So prior to that, you're right, we've got about 5 weeks left.
Okay.
I met with staff last week, was it? 2 weeks ago, okay, so we've been moving.
Okay, so we have the motion on the floor, so we'll deal with that first, and if somebody wants to make a second motion, we'll deal with that if it comes up. Okay, so the motion that's on the floor is that staff be directed to prepare a report on the requirements from the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario for obtaining a permanent liquor license. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Is there anything else the council would like? Councilor Brody?
I'd just like to make a recommendation, or get moving on this real fast on what we have to get done for you understand what we need to do, Kathy? Okay. So how do we have to
For the June 3rd meeting, I would say.
Yeah.
It would be for the very first meeting in June,
Okay.
and then return, yes. To be able to make a decision on June the 3rd.
Okay.
That's great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent.
And if you'll excuse me, Your Worship, I've got to zip back on the 402 plug.
Yep. Okay, so heading back into our correspondence, the next section is the action required. So the first one is correspondence item number 14, and it's a request of lands to be annexed to Stratford Caradoc.
Interesting.
This isn't the same one from last time, this will be a neighbor.
No.
Neighbor or no?
No,
No.
other side of A1.
There's a map on the second page of the correspondence item.
Yeah, the map. Did you find that the map didn't really outline what property we're talking about?
So we're talking about 623,
Okay.
and that property is, so the pink outline where it dips down and then to the east and back up. So that is in Adelaide Metcalfe, and to the west and to the east of that property is in Stratford Caradoc. Councillor McKinnon?
Through you, has Mayor Vanderhayden given any indication that Stratford Caradoc are wanting this land? And my second part of that is the applicant or the intended applicant aware of the process of changing the boundaries through annexation and the process that is, it's fairly lengthy unless it's a friendly annexation between municipalities?
Kathy? Or Aaron?
If I may, I will let Erin speak to this. She did discuss with Mr. T in regards to his request to be annexed.
So he has also reached out to Stratford Caradoc, and they have gone through just the sort of overview of what would entail for the friendly annexation. And I think that they indicated that this was sort of the starting point for him, just to see if Adelaide Metcalfe would be interested in something like that. He's just sort of in a unique like it to be annexed into Strathroy Caradoc for future development.
This is,
Thank you.
this is,
That's the problem.
so it's bordered by Adelaide Metcalfe all on three sides,
So
right?
this is Strathroy Caradoc, Adelaide Metcalfe, Strathroy Caradoc.
Oh, I'm
That's-
sorry, okay, sorry.
We
So
do
the-
have, yeah,
So the A1 and the
Is Strathroy
A1 is
Caradoc?
Strathroy Caradoc,
yes,
623 is ours,
Yep.
and the next piece of land is Strathroy Caradoc.
yes,
And FD, all that is Strathroy Caradoc.
yes.
So it's just one little, well, it's just 24 acres. But there's no plan at Strathroy Caradoc to develop around there right now, is there?
Aaron,
The one farm over there.
So they do have an application for development several properties away. So there is a bit of a process involved, even if it was annexed into Strathroy right now. It wouldn't necessarily go for residential designation for several years. And he's been made aware of the length of process. A comprehensive review is being done through Strathroy Caradoc right now to take a look at whether or not they need to designate more residential lands. So he's aware that even if it is transferred, it will retain its agricultural designation until it's been transferred.
Yes, Mayor, through, I would think we'd want to wait until we get a request from Strathroy Caradoc, not a Adelaide Metcalfe property owner, would you not think?
so in the past, it's come to Adelaide Metcalfe, and then we, if council would like to see that process continue, then we asked Strathroy Caradoc if they're interested in that process. Councillor Clark?
I don't know if Kathy or Aaron could speak to this. Is there a place to educate myself as to, is there a mathematical equation that relates to this as to future loss of tax base?
We can come back with a report and we'll let you know what the taxes would be, what their net
Because that
effect
would
would
be
be on
under
the
the
township.
annexation and the value assessment? Okay, thanks.
Okay, so the motion that we have in front of us is resolve that council direct staff to inform the applicants to contact the municipality of Strathroy Caradoc to inquire about Strathroy Caradoc's interest in having 623 Salisbury Street annexed to the municipality of Strathroy Caradoc. Okay, Councillor Clark and Councillor McKinnon. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, next item is from the Ontario Good Roads Association, and it's a resolution regarding the Roma and OGRA combined conference and requesting that that go back together as one. Councillor Kennedy, okay. And seconder? Okay, Councillor Brody, and that's resolved that council support the resolution from OGRA regarding a working relationship with Roma for discussions to occur for a combined OGRA Roma conference in the future. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Okay. Item number 16 is from the Township of Mulmar, a resolution regarding the aggregate reform. Councillor, or Deputy Mayor Hendricks?
I thought it was a good one to support.
Moving,
I'll move those.
okay, seconder,
So second.
Councillor McKinnon, any discussion on this one? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And then next is the resolution from the town of Mono, and it's a letter to the Minister of Finance regarding the OMPF funding. Any support?
So moved.
Okay, okay, Councillor McKinnon, Councillor Clark, all those in favor? Opposed and carried. And then next up is the resolution from the region of, or no, the town of Aurora, and it's a resolution regarding Bill 108, More Homes, More Choice Act. To support or to file that one?
I thought support.
Okay, so moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hendricks. Any discussion on this one? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay. Next is from the Region of Peel. That's a resolution overview of the health system transformation. Move and seconder for support, or
I got file. Item 5.
alrighty, we'll move on to the next ones, which is they're all resolutions regarding the library service funding
Yes.
cuts.
Can we deal with them all at once?
Yes. Okay. Would you like to-
For support.
Okay, moved by Councilor McKinnon, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. So now we need a motion to resolve that council receive and file correspondence items numbers CC 1 to to 13 and 19. Okay. Okay, moved by Councilor Clark, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. I feel like my head's gonna get a real workout tonight. We're gonna continue on for our staff reports. The first one is our Chief Building Officials report. That's our building permit list from Jeff Denny.
Thanks, Bruce. So just permits issued between February 13th and May 16th. There's a total of 31 permits. Total fees were $39,860 and just over $4 million in construction value.
Okay, is there any questions on the report? Question, Councilor Clark?
I'm coming through Courage tonight, I noticed the old TD Bank's got some stakes on it there. So is that zone residential now? Or
Yes,
it is, okay, and that's the house that's going up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions at all? Seeing none, a motion to resolve the council accept the building permit issued report as submitted by the Chief Building Official. Councilor Brody and Councilor McKinnon, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Okay, our next report is from our clerk, Jennifer.
Thanks, Mayor Smith. So this report is an update from the last council meeting of May 6th. Council received the draft copy of the property standards bylaws presented by myself, and the bylaw was sent to the municipal solicitor for review. Attached is the solicitor's recommendations that are outlined in red. As stipulated at the May 6th meeting, there are unknown financial impacts to the budget. It's all depending when a complaint is received. It will require staff time from the clerk and from the bylaw enforcement officer. Costs are recoverable through the Building Code Act and the Municipal Act. And for council to discuss on if they're happy with what they see, and if they are, we can go ahead and approve the bylaw and your bylaws later on.
Okay, is there any discussion?
No, that was fairly well done.
Sorry, Jennifer, mine was locked in, so I didn't get through it all.
Okay.
Is there anything in this bylaw regarding garage sales and stuff like that, or special purpose? That
That
one in Southwest Middlesex, I'm just asking.
There's, under the tidy yard bylaw, there's a section in there for selling, and I can't recall the sections off the top of my head, but there is a section in there that would garnish, yes, and council can change, because I think right now it's set for 4 days a year, and council can change that to whatever they wish, however many days a year. As long as they're zoned to sell, it's a permitted use.
Okay, is there any other questions on the property standards bylaw? I just had the one question, I sent it to Jennifer on the weekend. I just wanted to have clarification just for council and the public to know. With these, and wondering about complaints, in the report that you had in the previous meeting, it was that it'd be residents that can only complain. I'm just wanting to make sure that it's anyone can complain, whether they're a resident, a taxpayer, or just somebody driving through the municipality.
that's what council chooses. Sure.
Perfect. Councillor Brody, do you have a question?
No, just going through some of the, there's just some scratches and stuff here, so just reading, I didn't get a chance to read it all. I just wondered, on page 10, outdoor storage, how come this was scratched?
That's solicitor recommendation. I don't have any rhyme or reason to it.
Sorry, what page?
There's a comment beside it, and it says that its definition does not appear anywhere in the bylaw. So it's a definition, it's a defined word that's not being used in the bylaw.
Oh, it's just dropped out because it doesn't get used, so there's no use to define it.
Yeah.
One more question on page 12. Maintenance of yard and accessory buildings. It has in here that health, fire, and accident hazards are scratched out. Objects or conditions that may create a health or accident hazard.
Again, we had it in there and the solicitor took it out, and I don't have a comment for that one.
Does it appear elsewhere?
If I may, I believe it was just repeated twice in that situation.
Yeah.
The first line, objects or conditions that may create a health or accident hazard, and then it goes again, it said that are health or fire accident hazards. I think it was just to eliminate the repetition.
Guess I just want to make sure a few of those things are axed.
Is there any other questions? We have the recommendation in front of us, and it's to resolve that council approve the property standards bylaws presented by the clerk as amended. Deputy Hendricks and Councillor McKinnon, any further questions? All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Okay.
The next report that I have is tidy our bylaw, so again, it was brought to council's attention on May 6th, and I'm just looking for, it was sent to the solicitor as well as the administrative attorney general because of the schedule of fines. So attached to that is what the solicitor has gone through and with his recommendations in red. And I've made changes to the fine schedule, which was wordsmithing. When you pinpoint a section in the bylaw, it's got to be very specific on how it's worded in the fine schedule.
Okay, is there any questions on this bylaw?
I gave them to Jennifer, my comments.
We're gonna make all kinds of friends.
Okay, with that, we have a motion in front of us to resolve that council approve the tidy yard bylaw as presented by the clerk as amended. Councillor Clark and Councillor McKinnon, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. That's everything.
Yes, that is
Excellent.
everything. Thank you, Mayor Smith.
Okay, our next staff report is from our CAO treasurer, Kathy.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. My first report is the invoice payment approval for the period May 3rd, 2019 to May 16th, 2019 in the amount of $111,489.12.
Is there any questions on the accounts? Okay. Mover and seconder for approval. Okay. Councillor Clark and Councillor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
Next report is in regards to regulating parking and vehicle movement. Mayor Smith advised at the May 6, 2019 regular meeting that staff has been requested to bring a report forward regarding parking on township roads and streets. The Highway Traffic Act, RSO 1990, provides the following definition council of the municipality has the ability to regulate parking and vehicle movement on roads and streets under its jurisdiction. The applicable legislation for a parking bylaw is under the Municipal Act, the Highway Traffic Act, and the Provincial Offences Act. Generally, regulations on parking are for built-up areas where properties are closer together and sidewalks may be established. A parking bylaw can regulate a variety of items such as disabled parking, parking too close to intersections, no parking areas, blocking sidewalks, and seasonal restrictions on parking. Adelaide Metcalfe has not enacted a bylaw to regulate parking at this time. Staff have not received a large number of complaints related specifically to this issue. For winter snow removal, a form letter signed by the Public Works Manager requesting a car to be moved is left on the vehicle. The Public Works Manager, Jeff, will advise that 2 to 3 letters are issued each winter in various areas. Vehicle owners are cooperative and no follow-up action has been required. We rely on the discretion of the operators to ensure that the vehicle is not just a one-off situation. In other situations, the CVO by law enforcement officers receive complaints about vehicles parked on a sidewalk in Kerwood. In these instances, the CVO by law enforcement officer attends at the property and requests the property owner remove the vehicle from the sidewalks. There's usually cooperation from the property owner. Unfortunately, with the design of the sidewalks in Kerwood, the sidewalk is sometimes perceived as part of the roadway. One issue that has not been rectified is parking too close to an intersection. This occurs from time to time at the intersection of Mackenzie Street and Kerwood Road, mainly during events being held at St. Paul's Hall, as well along all the intersections near the Kerwood Park during the annual Optimus Ball Tournament. Enforcement of parking is through fines issued under Part 2 of the Provincial Offences Act and approved by the Chief Justice. From quick research, the fine for parking in a designated parking space without a permit is $300, with other offences being significantly lower at $25. Tickets are issued for Part 2 offences with payment due to the Township Office. Unpaid tickets can be submitted to the Provincial Court for collection. The financial impact will be the cost to enforce parking regulation bylaws. A ticket can only be issued when the vehicle is found to be in violation of a section of the bylaw. You can't have a photo submitted for the offence to take action. Enforcement of a parking bylaw is not a 9-to-5 job, being that someone needs to be either on patrol from time to time or readily available to investigate upon complaint. Additional costs will be for appropriate signage, ticket books, as well as staff time reconciling fine payments and submitting unpaid tickets for processing. The recommendation is that council accept the regulating parking and vehicle movement report as presented by the City Treasurer, and staff are requesting council's direction regarding further investigation of the drafting of a bylaw to regulate parking and vehicle movement in the township.
Okay, any discussion? Councilor Brody?
I don't like the idea of this. We have one little town, it's Kerwood. You don't have parking painted on the roadways anyways. You're talking about the Optimus event. So there's 3 events in Kerwood, usually is the fish fry, the Optimus. And are we gonna go and start putting $300 parking tickets on 2 events in Kerwood in the whole year? I don't think so. I kinda recommend this gets shelved.
Okay, any other discussion?
I tend to agree with Councillor Brody that unless there becomes an epidemic of parking issues in the hamlet areas, why it seems to be resolved just by using staff going to the complainant and the person in violation, and I agree.
Okay. And the reason I just brought this up with staff is because we're looking at having more sidewalks within the township, and there will be sidewalks more other spaces other than the village. Pike, Napperton, Center Road, 2nd Street, this could become an issue. And I would rather see us be proactive than reactive when looking at this issue. And that's the reason I would like to proceed with this. But if council does not see that way, then I guess we'll proceed. Deputy Mayor Hendricks.
Yeah, I'd move the recommendation. I think that we've got it on the radar and those sidewalks aren't going in this year. So I think if you have a law that you're not willing to enforce, you're just kind of creating confusion. So, and I don't think we're ready to enforce it till we need to. So I agree that we kind of keep the idea in our head and when we start looking at installing parking or sidewalks, when we're actually in the process of doing that we bring this back up. So I move the recommendation.
To receive the report and also to further investigate? Or just,
No, just that we accept the report for now.
Councilor Clark, any comments?
I agree with some of your comments, but then the thing is the enforceability. And I think it's nice to have something in place so that we have a tool in hand if and when needed. So I can see that, but, you know, I guess it's up to council whether they want to be proactive and have it on the books and not really follow through on it, or, you know, then that questions the merit of it, I guess. If we're not prepared to use it, we maybe shouldn't have it just yet.
So we'll deal with the first recommendation, and that's to resolve the council accept the regulating parking and vehicle movement report presented by the CAO treasurer.
And I already moved that.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Hendricks and seconded by Councilor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. And is anybody willing to put forward the second motion, which is to investigate and drafting?
I move that we just shove this to the back shelf.
We just don't need a motion for that, though. So you want to move that we're not doing this at all?
I move we don't do this at all.
Okay, seconder? Okay, Councilor McKinnon? Jennifer, do you have something?
Resolve that council direct staff to stay status quo when it comes to regulating parking and vehicle movement, as staff currently looks after it. I don't really know how it's stored.
Status quo.
Status quo.
Yep. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, Kathy?
Item number 3 is a financial report including the payroll for the month of April. Also noted on the report, the disposal of the 1985 backhoe. The high bid for the backhoe was $11,563. The backhoe has been picked up by the bidder and removed from the township insurance.
Okay, is there any questions at all on the financial report?
Is that kind of what they were expecting for the backhoe, or is there a backhoe value, or?
In my opinion, that's a pretty good price.
Is
Yeah, I
that
thought
okay?
it was pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know, I have no idea. Okay, thanks.
Okay. I'm gonna mover and seconder to resolve that council accept the financial reporting for the 2019 payroll presented by the CEO treasurer. Councilor McKinnon and Councilor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed and carried. And I think we should also probably have a motion as to the amount that we disposed the backhoe for, so then the public knows how much that is in our minutes. Okay, moved by Councilor Clark and Councilor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
Item number 4 is the 2019 budget. Council requested some clarification on Department 6710, the planning and zoning. In previous years, council has included an amount of $35,000 as an expense to the municipality for planning and zoning. I went back through my notes, and in 2017, Adelaide Metcalfe indicated to the Director of Planning for the county of the need to have the 5-year review of the official plan carried out, followed closely by the comprehensive zoning bylaw review. The amendment to the official plan to permit severance of surplus dwellings was also effective January 1st, 2017. Staff had no indication of how many applications would be received and what resources would be required. And eventually, the official plan review did not take place that year. For 2018, the request to have the official plan review completed and the comprehensive zoning bylaw review underway was made to the county and an amount incorporated into the budget. The updated county official plan is not yet being approved. There has been clear indication that the current provincial government is making changes to the provincial policy statement and legislation that will affect official plans. It would be wise to undertake the comprehensive review of the township official plan at this time. The expense amount of $35,000 has been removed from the 2019 proposed budget. Together with the directions from the May 6, 2019 discussions, the 2019 residential tax rate will be 0.006873, a reduction of 0.000041 from the 2018 residential tax rate of 0.006914, which is essentially a 0% tax rate increase as council directed.
Is there any discussion at all? Okay, so the recommendation in front of us is to resolve the council approve the 2019 budget as presented by the CAO treasurer with a residential tax rate increase of 0%. Anybody want to move that? Okay. Councilor Brody? Deputy Mayor Hendricks? Any further discussion? Councilor?
Through the mayor, I'm going to sneak this one in here.
Yep.
We received a letter higher up from the Four Counties Health saying thank you for the donation. So was the check already sent?
That was from last year's donation.
Last
That
year.
was from the donation in 2018.
Thank you.
The report for the grant proposals, council's included an amount of $20,000 for 2019. At the next meeting, I'm proposing to bring forward a recommendation for just dispersing the $20,000 so that we can get that underway as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And at this time, I just want to say thank you to Kathy and all the senior staff for all the hard work that you guys did in the 2019 budget. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of those projects move forward in this year. And with that, we are
I
way
have my last
Oh,
report
yes,
that was
I forgot.
added. I do have a fifth report that was added this evening. It's in regards to the transfer of fire inspection services. Council received a report at the April 15, 2019 regular meeting regarding the provision of fire inspection services by the County of Middlesex. The county has managed and provided fire inspection and investigation services on behalf of the lower tier municipalities for the last 21 years. The county was requesting that lower tier municipalities confirm the transfer of this service to the upper tier. At the April 15th meeting, Adelaide Metcalfe Council supported the transfer of the fire inspection services to the county. At their meeting on May 14, 2019, Middlesex County Councilors voted on the transfer of the services from the lower tier municipalities to the county. A triple majority under the Municipal Act was required for the services to continue to be provided at the county level to all local municipalities. The transfer was not supported through triple majority. The township has received notification from the county that the provision of fire inspection services will cease in 1 month's time. That will be June 14, 2019. The county has provided a timeline and outline of the transition of the fire inspection services to take place. Township staff have commenced discussions on providing those services required under the Fire Protection and Prevention Act. The Office of the Fire Marshal and Emergency Management have scheduled a meeting of fire chiefs and CAOs, and the local CAOs that voted to transfer the services had a discussion by telephone this morning, and we are going to be discussing it again this week. The cost of fire inspection services has been incorporated into the annual county levy. The cost of delivery of services at the local level will be determined once the best method of service delivery has been sought. The impact on the operating budget will be reviewed and if the budget revised if necessary. And the recommendation is that the council accept this transfer of fire inspection services report as presented for information.
Okay, is there any questions at all? I just wanted to just clarify one thing. At the May 14th, 2019 Middlesex County Council meeting, there was not a vote from county councilors for the transfer. Unfortunately, at the time, a double majority from the lower tiers was not achieved, so there was no sense of making that the vote at county council to see if there was a triple majority, as it was not going to happen. Okay, so the recommendation in front of us to resolve the council accept the transfer of fire inspection services report as presented by the CAO treasurer. Councillor Clark and Councillor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, is there anything else, Kathy? Okay. So, do you have anything for other business from the council members? Seeing none, we're going to recess until 7:05. Movement seconder, Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. All right, we're going to have a motion to continue on with our council meeting. We just had a short recess. Mover and seconder to resume our council meeting. Councillor Brody and Councillor Clark. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Next on our agenda is our time event, which is 7:05, which is our minor variance application A06-2019. And we need a motion to resolve that council convene as a committee of adjustment for the purpose of hearing minor variance application A06-2019 for Ron and Catherine Minton at 30131 Kerwood Road at 7:05. Councillor Clark and Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. I think John or Catherine's going to come to the podium there. And let's say the purpose of the following public hearing for Adelaide Metcalfe Committee of Adjustment is to give the members of the Committee of Adjustment as well as the general public an opportunity to hear all interested persons with respect to the application before council this evening. The public is advised that the comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record available for full disclosure. If a person or public body files an appeal of decision made this evening to the local planning appeal tribunal without having made a written submission to the committee, the tribunal may dismiss the appeal. If you wish to be notified of the decision, please submit a written request to the township, and a sign-in sheet has been provided for your convenience. So, and down to Jennifer. Okay. Ron, have you received the planning report from Aaron? Excellent. Aaron, I'll have you go through the report.
Thank you, Worship. The purpose of application A06-2019 is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw as it relates to minimum distance separation 2, or NDS 2, to allow for the construction of new livestock facility, which will facilitate an expansion to the existing dairy operation. Specifically, the applicant is requesting permission for the construction of a dairy barn with a setback of 129 meters, or 425 feet from the nearest dwelling, which is 30153 Kerwood Road, whereas MDS 2 requires a minimum setback of 175 meters or 575 feet. The subject lands contain a single detached dwelling, dairy barn, calf barn, heifer barn, and drive shed. Currently, the property contains approximately 124 dairy stalls, I believe is what Ron had said. The applicant is proposing the removal of the existing T-shaped dairy barn to be replaced with a larger facility with a total of 150 stalls, which will house all of the cows on the property and consolidate some of their operations. The existing T-shaped barn will be removed once the new facility is built and the cows have been transferred in. The existing livestock barns will then be used for storage purposes. The applicants have advised that the proposed location of the barn would allow existing services and access to be utilized. The proposed barn will have a floor area of 4,617 meters squared and will make use of the existing outdoor manure storage pit located just to the west of the proposed barn. The subject lands are designated agricultural area and zone general agriculture in the zoning bylaw. There is also a portion of the property that is zoned environmental protection, however it's not impacted by this proposal. So as we know, Section 45 of the Planning Act allows for a municipality to grant a minor variance based on 4 tests. The first test being, is the variance considered minor in nature? It's opinion of staff that the requested setback from the nearest neighboring dwelling can be considered minor in nature. Given the existing livestock and manure facilities on site, staff do not anticipate a substantial increase to off-site impacts. Staff are satisfied that the cumulative impact of the existing and the proposed livestock facility and manure facility on the surrounding neighboring dwellings will be minimal. So the second test is the variance desirable and appropriate use of the land. Surrounding land uses are predominantly agricultural and rural residential in nature. The proposed dairy barn, as part of an existing farming operation, is considered an appropriate use. Third test, does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? As the property is designated agricultural area, the primary use shall be farming, which fits into this situation. The final test, does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? So the intent of MDS 2 is to minimize the effects of new or expanding livestock operations on surrounding non-farm uses. Although there will be a slight increase in the number of stalls provided, the operation will remain largely unchanged, as the applicant is attempting to improve the efficiency of the operation by consolidating the raising of livestock into one facility. Additionally, the location of the replacement barn would be no closer than the existing barn to the affected neighboring dwelling. It is the opinion of staff that the requested relief will not cause further land use incompatibilities between these uses. Given the adjacent lands are largely in agricultural production, it is staff's opinion that the application will not negatively impact neighboring uses. So I am satisfied that the four tests have been met and satisfied. I did want to note as well that planning staff also recommend, as a condition of consent, change of use permits be applied for and issued for the existing barns that are to remain on the property. This is because the MDS2 setback calculation was done just maintaining what's going to be in the new facility. That is not taking into consideration the existing capacity in the existing barns. To ensure that the change of use permits are applied for and issued, staff recommend that a $5,000 deposit be required by the township to be returned to the applicant upon relocation of the livestock to the new facility, and the change of use permits are issued by the chief building official. The reason I am requesting a financial deposit is simply because based on the nature of minor variances, once the minor variance is passed, Jeff issues the building permit, then we have no way of actually ensuring that the change of use permits are applied for and issued. So it's simply a way to ensure that it's completed. As per the requirements of the Planning Act, the application was circulated by the prescribed agencies and surrounding landowners, and no comments or concerns were submitted. Based on this evaluation, staff recommend that application for minor variance A06-2019, filed by Ron and Catherine Minton, Inc., which proposes to reduce the MDS setback requirement between a livestock facility and the nearest neighboring dwelling from 175 meters to 129 meters, be granted subject to the following condition: that prior to the issuance of a building permit for the construction of the dairy barn, the owners provide a deposit of $5,000 to the township to be reimbursed once the existing livestock barns have been decommissioned from accommodating livestock to the satisfaction of the chief building official, and a change of use permit has been issued by the chief building official as well.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Ron, do you have anything you'd like to add at all? Is there anyone in the gallery wishing to speak to this application? Seeing none, is there any questions or comments from the Committee of Adjustment? Councillor Clark?
When you're speaking of decommissioning these, is it similar to the ridiculousness of decommissioning a horse barn, where you were asking them to remove stalls and such?
Through your worship to Councillor Clark, we have received a copy of the nutrient management plan, or the agricultural plan, that actually lists in it that the existing barns are to be decommissioned as well. What that entails, Jeff might be able to speak to that more. I'm not entirely sure what that would be required.
Pardon me, what's the question?
The decommissioning of these dairy barns, like I'm assuming the one that's holding 124 stalls right now, what parameters are you putting around that with respect to decommissioning?
Yeah, you can do that, just take the stalls out or whatever, it's basic.
So then it's just a storage building at that
Yes,
point?
correct, yeah.
Okay. Just curious.
Okay, is there any questions, other questions? Okay, so we have the recommendation in front of us with the one condition. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Deputy Mayor Hendricks and Councillor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, thank you. Okay, and we just need a motion to resolve the public meeting regarding the... Nope, that's not right. We need to reconvene. Right?
Yeah, you should close, I don't have that.
Yeah, so we just need a motion to reconvene as council.
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Clark and Councillor McKinnon, all those in favor? Opposed and carried. And I did miss at the beginning of the meeting the approval of the May 6th, 2019 regular meeting minutes. Mover and seconder for those, Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. And we're going to have another recess until 7:30 for our special policy area public meeting. Mover and seconder for that recess, Councillor Brody and Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. All right, so we need a motion from council to reconvene. Okay. Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. And it looks like everyone heard the memo. We're having a public meeting right now at 7:30 regarding the special policy areas of the municipality. And we need a motion from council to resolve that the public meeting regarding the special policy areas within the township of Adelaide Metcalfe be open at 7:30. Okay, Councillor Clark and Councillor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Before we begin, there are 11 special policy areas in our official plan that we will be reviewing tonight. And our planner, Erin, will be going through each of them one by one. After she gives the overview of that special policy area, we'll then have a chance for the public to come to the podium, state your name and address, and any comments that you have regarding that special policy area. After that, if council members have any questions, they can ask at that time. The one thing I will note is there seems to be a lot of interest regarding special policy area 4A, which is the property that is within the Kerwood, Calvert, and Winter Drive area. And I will note that earlier today in our agenda, we did receive the 70-plus letters regarding those, and council has taken the opportunity to read those. And I just ask that if, just for time, if you have submitted a letter, council has received that, but if you do wish to come to the podium and state whatever you wish regarding that, you may do so. And also that if something has been said before, please do not come up and repeat. As you know, this may turn into a very long night, and we all would like to get home at a certain point. And I know some council members haven't had their supper yet because we did start at 6 o'clock. So we are going to be here as long as it takes for members of the public to voice their opinions. But as I said, please do be respectful to everyone in the room. So I'll have Erin, if you will, go through the first policy.
Thank you, Worship. The first Special Agricultural Policy Area 1. I just wanted to add a little note at the front here that the subject lines are approximate. If you look at our official plan documents, the lines are somewhat difficult to discern, so this is sort of planning staff's best guess at what exactly the boundaries will be. So for the first area here, the official plan policy is restaurant and convenience store. In Special Agricultural Policy Area 1, restaurant and convenience store are permitted. And then the properties included in this area are zoned a combination of rural, residential, and general agriculture. And staff note that restaurant and convenience store are not permitted uses in either of those.
Thank you, Erin. Is there anyone in the gallery wishing to speak to this special policy area?
For the benefit of the group, that's Kaiser's Corner, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So, Dave, is there anyone in the entranceway there? Or are you the last one? Okay. Okay, is there anyone wishing to speak to the special policy area? Any members of council wishing to speak to this? Okay.
Special Agricultural Policy Area 2. The official plan policy, restaurant and motel are permitted uses under the official plan designation. It is zoned rural commercial. So this is the property located on Egremont Drive, just down the road from here. It currently has a motel on the property. So that's just a general review.
Is there anyone wishing to speak to this special policy area? Any council members wishing to speak to this?
Special Agricultural Policy Area 3, the official plan policy allows for a gas bar and motel. This property is located at the corner of Egremont and Center Road. The zoning for the property is rural commercial. Gas bar and motel permitted under the designation. Again, there's a discrepancy between what the zoning bylaw and what the official plan designation is.
Is there anyone in the gallery wishing to speak to this special policy area? Members of council? Councillor Clark?
Question, Aaron, is part of that property not part of Middlesex County? Or is that butting up it, or is that the wrong corner?
It's directly adjacent to the Middlesex County. It's now the garage that's there. So it is a separate parcel.
Shed.
Oh, the salt shed, okay, all right.
So the Middlesex County owns it, I think it's 3550, which is what they call their Four Corners garage.
Sorry, where's the garage, here or here?
Keep going,
Here,
that's
got
what
it, thanks.
Sorry, it's a bit of an old aerial photo. It doesn't actually have the
That's okay.
structure.
Is there any other questions or comments from council? Okay, we'll move on to special policy area 5.
So this is the property, or several properties located at Melwood Drive and Kerwood Road. The official plan designation allows for campgrounds and trailer parks. The zoning of this properties are a combination of rural residential, environmental protection, and parks and recreation.
Is there anyone in the gallery wishing to speak to this special policy area? Any questions from council?
Oh, I always do.
Yep.
So are in that area there, are there any residential lots that are vacant right now and available?
It's difficult to tell. To be honest, again, it's an older aerial photo. I'm not entirely sure what's on the property. Jeff Denemy does not think so.
Okay, is there any other questions from council?
Special Agricultural Policy Area 6, the official plan designation, rural residential site. Within this area, an individual building site is permitted for a single detached dwelling and an accessory home business as permitted in the zoning bylaw. This property is located at Mayfair and Innadale Road. The zoning is for general agricultural, and there's a section for environmental protection as well. So this is a section or a specific property in our official plan where it had sort of difficult to discern, just a small little circle. So we're not sure this is the property that is affected. However, where on the actual property the special policy area applies to is difficult to discern. But I will note that there is no actual second dwelling on the property as of right now. So if there's any more questions about that, or?
Is there anyone wishing to speak to this special policy area? Members of council?
Just a question.
Councillor Brody?
So there is a house located right in the corner of this?
Yes.
So basically this is, it's not separate from this farm, so this is a farm property with a house on it. And it was zoned differently for what specific reason, or do we know?
So we don't permit second dwellings on properties. However, this special policy area within the official plan states that a second building site is permitted. For whatever reason, I'm not sure what that was in the past.
How long ago would that have been? Something like that, do you know? We don't know.
I imagine it was a carryover from amalgamation, and to what the purpose was, I would have to, we'll do some digging on that.
Aaron, that's the way I'm reading it, interpreting it, is that it's for a single detached dwelling and accessory home. Am I interpreting it wrong? Is it just for this?
It's
For
for
this
home
home
business.
Right. The problem was is that the official plan, if you look at the actual property,
Yep.
the section that is encompassed in that is actually further down the road. It's not actually encompassing the home that is built on the corner. So we'll have to discern whether that was the initial intent to have another building site, or was it just the home was relocated on a different part of the property.
If I may, I think historically, I think it's because the hydro only came to Innadale and, is that Mayfair?
Yes.
The hydro came there, and then when the house was built, the hydro was brought the other way, so I think it might have been designated down there before, historically.
Is there any other questions from council?
So if we want that changed,
That will be
Already.
something that we look at through a study
Okay.
review.
Not sure, just causing trouble.
We'll move on to the special policy area 7.
So this property is located on Melwood Drive. I believe it's the previous Metcalfe Township office. Is that correct? So within this agricultural policy area, an administrative office building and maintenance facility are permitted. So I believe that was a carryover from when it was an actual township office. The zoning is institutional, which would allow for that. However, it is no longer being used for this purpose. So we'll take a look at what it really should be now.
So,
Just for clarification, the property that's outlined is the former Metcalfe's in Tinwheel Park. And then to the east of that is the old township office.
Okay.
so is the township office in that square, the old one? No?
No, it's besides.
Before we go to councilors' questions, is there any one wishing to speak to this special policy area in the gallery? Seeing none. Councilor Brody?
So these two properties are owned by the same individual, but they're two separate properties still, correct?
I'm not sure.
It shouldn't be on the other interior.
So is that still an active church in the front?
Yes,
It's
I
active,
think so.
So that's it.
zoned institutional? Okay. And when the other is zoned special agricultural? So it needs to be cleaned up.
So now we're taking a bit of a different route. We're looking at our special urban policy areas. So before we were looking at agricultural properties, now we're taking a look at our urban properties. So this property is located, sorry,
No.
sorry.
So it's in Napperton.
Yes. Perfect. So we're looking at Napperton and Pike Road, which south is Eastman Drive, or Ave, sorry. So this official plan policy, commercial greenhouse, non-residential permitted uses are limited to warehousing, public storage, which is indoor only, distribution of renewable energy products and commercial greenhouse use, all contained within buildings existing as of June 3rd, 2013. So again, this is just to recognize what was currently on the properties while the other properties were sort of being built up around it. The zoning, there is an institutional site, there's several site-specific general agricultural properties, urban residential, and site-specific urban residential as well in the area.
Okay, is there anyone wishing to speak to this special urban policy area? Members of council?
I will.
Oh, thank you. I didn't see you.
Was there supposed to be a church built on that part close to Napperton? Whatever happened to that?
If you could stand and state your name and your address, please.
Sorry.
Well, we'll set the tone for the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Garrett Kingma, 28332 Pike Road. I understand there was supposed to be a church built on that property at one point along Napperton, and I'm wondering if anything has ever happened to that.
Sorry, which place? Like beside the greenhouse, the red top right?
Beside the cemetery, close to Napperton.
I can speak to the history of that. Some time ago, there was an application that came forward to have that property severed into 2 residential lots. At that time, the conditions of that consent were not fulfilled, so it's still 1 lot. And there was another planning application to have, I believe, a place of worship or institutional use. And Kathy, has that been fulfilled? Is that zoning been changed?
No, I don't.
Okay. So it's still the original zoning.
I like that. I like homes.
Okay, does that answer your question? Okay. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the special policy area? I think this is a great time to remind everyone to put their phones on silent. And I will make a note that if you are in Strathroy Caradoc right now, the mayor would be asking you to donate, I believe it's either $5 or $10 of the charity of the mayor's choice. So you should be happy to wear an Adelaide Metcalfe right now, so you don't have to do that donation. All right, so we'll move on. Is there any other questions from council for the special policy area?
Can you back up to that one?
So are these, you know, I don't know this property very well, I know where it is, but are these greenhouses being used now?
Yes, big bulb.
Oh, so Jake Falk has this, okay.
So there's a mention here, just so we don't get into this later, public storage, indoor only. So are there any restrictions on the type of storage?
The policy is exactly as stated, there's no further information.
Okay, is there any other questions from council? Okay, seeing none.
Special Urban Policy Area 4, so this is located at Center Road and just north of the 402 highway. Within this area, highway commercial uses including motel, restaurant, and gas bar are permitted. These uses may be restricted in the zoning bylaw by use of a holding provision, setting out the requirements for development of the site, and it is zoned corridor commercial with a holding symbol on the property. And it's currently just an agricultural production. There's nothing there right now.
Okay. Is there anyone in the gallery wishing to speak to this special policy area? Members of council, any questions regarding this? I just had one, with the holding provision, is that in regards to services, sewer and water, or?
I imagine it refers to site plan control.
Would you see, if there was a proposed development there with having the services that are?
I don't know if it's within the serviced, no. So.
Yeah. So right now, there wouldn't be any services to that, it would just have to be all internal.
We're now getting into Special Agricultural Policy Area 4, so we're switching gears back into the agricultural policies. There was a bit of more of interest in this area, so I did just put it onto a slide itself. Under the official plan, industrial areas. So within Special Policy Area 4, industrial activities including manufacturing, wholesaling, warehousing, distributing, repair, and servicing and storage of goods and materials are permitted. Bulk sales establishments such as farm fuel agents and building supply outlets and accessory uses such as offices and a factory retail outlet may also be permitted. Proposals for new development within this area shall meet the following criteria. A, existing or proposed services shall be adequate to serve the proposed development, subject to the approval of the authority having jurisdiction. B, vehicular access shall be available from a public road that is maintained year-round, subject to the approval of the authority having jurisdiction. And C, buffering, planting, screening, and other landscaping will be required to minimize any potential conflicts with adjacent and neighboring land uses and to create an attractive image for the area. All site development or redevelopment within this area shall be subject to the provisions of Section 41 of the Planning Act and the Township Site Plan Control Bylaw. So Special Agricultural Policy 4, I called it A because it does apply to two different properties. Again, the industrial area designation and the zoning is currently industrial with a holding symbol on it.
Okay, thank you, Arian. Is there anyone in the gallery wishing to speak to this special policy area? And what I'll do is, with this one, I'm assuming we're near the end, and I assume that somebody's wanting to speak to a certain policy area, and I assume it's this one. I realize that with the podium here, and the idea is to have people to speak at the podium, with the amount of room between the chairs, I will If you just raise your hand, I'll point to you, and if you could just stand if you're able, and state your name and address and whichever points you'd like to make. So, no one's wishing to speak to the special policy area. Okay, Doug.
My name's Doug McLean, and I live at 1626 Winter Drive in Metcalfe, and I'm a 25-year resident of Metcalfe. And I want to talk about the proposed biosolids storage site that's been proposed for this particular property. And as you're aware, there was 70+ letters sent into the township in comments regarding this particular property and the proposed biostorage facility. And I've been asked this evening to summarize the concerns of these 70 letter writers. I've read all the letters just to kind of expedite the evening here a little bit. So I'll take a few minutes. I won't be too long, but there's some important facts that we want to get out here. A major concern with almost everyone who wrote in is, of course, the extremely unpleasant putrid odor associated with this biosolid sludge. This smell decreases the quality of life for residents that can't avoid this noxious odor on their property. Many question if the fumes from this material contain harmful components that can negatively affect human health. Now, there's lots of anecdotal information on the internet about people becoming sick, even dying when living next to and breathing air from these types of biosolid sites. Another concern, potentially negative environmental effects, and there's a number of them, and I'll outline the most important. Potential surface runoff into the Sydenham River, damaging the fragile ecosystem that supports a number of species at risk. I don't know if you're aware or not, but there's 7 species of rare fish, 10 species of rare mussels, 3 species of rare snakes, 4 species of rare turtles, including the eastern spiny softshell turtle, that are living in this immediate area within meters of where this proposed site is. Another potentially negative situation is dangerous leachates contaminating groundwater with heavy metals, human pathogens, and or discarded human pharmaceuticals, amongst other contaminants that are in these biosolids. All of us in this area are on dug or drilled wells, so we are particularly concerned with this possibility of leachate getting into our groundwater. We're also concerned with the potential for air and soil contamination with these aforementioned dangerous materials as well. There's a very real concern with the additional heavy truck traffic that will come along with a large storage site such as this. This increased traffic contributes to unwanted noise and traffic danger at all hours of the day and night. This increased truck traffic translates into increased wear and tear on our township roads and bridges. There could be potentially hundreds or even thousands of trucks in and out of this site. Who will pay for this wear and tear on our roads and infrastructure? And I ask, is it the taxes from the 70 acres that Burmese pay? I don't think so. Also, major safety issues with pedestrians and bikers in this area. There's a lot of pedestrians, a lot of bikers on our quiet roads, and it just doesn't mix with heavy truck traffic. Another major concern, negative effects on property value and trouble with resaleability with a biosite like this in our neighborhood. Our homes and farms are our most important investment, and who will recompense for loss of value? Is it the Burmese? Is it the township? You know, who's going to step up to the plate when this happens? This proposed site could also negatively affect others wishing to relocate to our community in the form of new owners, which are new taxpayers. Unfortunately, no one wants to move and relocate to an area that smells like an open sewer. This can negatively affect our future tax base. Another concern, the unsightly appearance of the site itself, piled high with sludge. These sites are an eyesore. We've all witnessed this the last time Burmans used the same property for sludge storage several years ago. They were extremely poor stewards of the site. It was untidy, with biosolids spilled everywhere, including in the water-filled ditch out front, on the shoulder of the road, and on the road itself. And there are pictures that were sent in to the township that will back this up. Several times the pile was on fire, creating an extra terrible smell and extra nauseous fumes to deal with. This begs another question of who will pay each time for the fire department to come out and address these regular spontaneous fires that we can expect from a pile of waste like this, as it happened in the past. This is one reason why LaSalle Agri were drummed out of Don Euphemia, because of calls to the fire department. Another concern, the impact of such a site on our local tourism and service businesses, such as the nearby Texas Longhorn Guest Ranch, and also Sydenham Ridge, which hosts weddings and functions. They just cannot have a smelly, unsightly pile of human waste near their facilities and clients. That just does not work. Who will pay for the inevitable loss of revenue that will occur if this site is allowed to go forward? Some other comments and concerns from the letters. There's little or no benefit to the township or its taxpayers to having such a storage site, only benefit to the Burmas. Another comment, why don't Burmas locate this waste storage in their own backyard in Lambton? There are too many unknowns with this sludge, and a complete lack of proper research has been done on this matter. And it's one thing to apply these materials to a field once every few years, that type of situation, but we're talking about the problem of having hundreds, maybe thousands of tons in one location. Look at what's going on in Watford right now, north of the dump. This stuff is out of control. I mean, there are hundreds of tons of it, it's full of heavy metal, it's full of human pharmaceuticals, it has human pathogens. I mean, it's just a dangerous situation. What are the long-term effects of this waste being stored and applied to the land? Another concern. Many are not at all comfortable with the idea of biosolids being applied to agricultural lands that produce food. Some are repulsed that they may be actually eating bread from wheat that has been fertilized with this human excrement waste. That is a particularly disgusting thought, and one that farmers using this waste on their land, producing human food, should think very carefully about. Are you ready to have the light of day shone on your operation, that you're using biosludge and producing human food? I mean, you need to think seriously if you're a person that's using this material. Numerous residents have asked that council undertake a thorough and proper study of the risks versus benefits of this proposed biosolid site before moving ahead. There's very little research that's been done on this. And I think the municipalities, the government, the Ministry of the Environment, they're all kind of creeping around in the shadows here because nobody wants to have the answers. They want a place to be able to dump this stuff. And if we find out the facts, I mean, you just do not want to have this type of situation in your area. They asked council to pass an interim bylaw to allow proper time to research this proposal and its implications. In summary, human biosolids are nothing short of a witch's brew. They are full of unknown materials. This is a fact. Anything and everything that can be flushed down a toilet or tossed in the sewer is part of its makeup. The Ministry of the Environment really has no idea of exactly what is contained in this material. Every batch of this material would be different than the last. It depends what went down the toilet the week before. They do not analyze each and every truckload for safety purposes. Let us not kid ourselves about what is present in this material. This is definitely not something that we want stored anywhere in Adelaide Metcalfe, or for that matter, spread on any of our agricultural lands. We currently have a pristine, though fragile, ecosystem here, surrounding the Sydenham River. I mean, we have bald eagles nesting here for the first time in over 100 years. And they're here because, you know, the environment is safe and they can produce young with no problem, unlike what's happened in the past. We host many rare species of flora and fauna. Let us be very cautious moving forward. Let us be passionate stewards of our land here in Adelaide Metcalfe. I would suggest that Burmans could find other better alternatives for their site. A logical solution would be to look west towards Sarnia's Chemical Valley and lease already contaminated industrial lands where they can place their storage. Don't risk contaminating our clean soil, water, and air here with this material. This type of site does not belong in an area where people have their homes and farms. We urge Council to take these concerns outlined and handle them with great importance. The letter writers are unanimous in their concern against allowing for a human biosolids waste storage site in the township. That is crystal clear. No one wants this site to go ahead. The taxpayers have spoken. Perhaps it would be more appropriate under these circumstances for Council to strongly consider imposing a moratorium on the establishment of any such human biosolids storage sites in the township, as has been done in other jurisdictions. I would respectfully end by saying, let us have future generations in Adelaide Metcalfe applaud us for how we handled this situation, not curse us for creating a nightmare for them to have to contend with. Thank you.
Yes, I'm John DeGroot. I live in 2356 Murphy. We have a 200-acre farm about 500 feet away from that corner pie farm that my granddaughter owns, or my daughter-in-law. Anyway, I want to talk about the spare tires from 20 years ago when we paid $5 for every tire to get recycled. They planted them on two 100-acre farms around Guelph or towards Toronto. Once the farm was full of tires, the guy sold it for $5. And that's what I see could happen with this one there in Adelaide and Metcalfe. It's a perfect spot to put in 40 acres of cement and load it up and sell the place for $10 or give it away if anybody wants it. It looks like nobody even wants this stuff anymore because how come he has to pile it up so much? Watford is sitting full of it and wherever you look he's got it hiding. And now he wants to start in Metcalfe. I think they should start burning it and make hydro out of it. Set up something for $20 million and produce it instead of spoiling and messing up all the land. Because London is talking about doing that. They're going to start making hydro out of it. Let these boys do it if you want to make money. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wanting to speak to this special policy area? Okay, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Eric Davis. I'm a municipal and planning law lawyer with Miller Thompson, and I'm here acting on behalf of...
Hey, speak up. We can't hear you.
Usually I don't have a hard time with my voice not being heard, but if the microphone is not working, then I'll gladly just project a bit more.
Turn it on.
Ah, that may be the problem. Hello? Does this help at all?
No, you have to actually see.
Ah. Hello? Is this working? So what I may do is I may use a mixture of the microphone and just better projecting my voice to make sure everyone can hear me. My name is Eric Davis. I'm a municipal and planning law lawyer with Miller Thompson, and I act for the property owners the property owner in this question is Roger Burma, as well as LaSalle Agri Inc. So I think what's important to look at perhaps is the purpose of tonight's public meeting. So the purpose of tonight's public meeting is to review the special policy areas. And when we received a copy of the notice, dated April 30th, it says the Council of the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe has determined that it is appropriate for a land use study to be conducted concerning the planning policies related to the Township's special agricultural policy areas 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and special urban policy areas 2 and 4, in light of inconsistencies between designations under the Township's official plan and zoning, and zoning under the Township zoning bylaw, and land use policy direction changes in the Township in recent years. Now, the parcel that we're talking about, the property that we're talking about right now, is located in the Township's Special Agricultural Policy Area 4A. Now, when I look at the agenda and I look for the agenda package for the public meeting, I wanted to outline some of the concerns that we had. So the first thing is the Special Policy Areas presentation, which we just walked through, contains mapping, so it shows where the property is located. It contains the official plan. It contains the zoning, but contains no other useful information. There's no planning analysis. There's no discussion of what this review we're actually talking about is supposed to do, is supposed to accomplish. I don't see a review looking at this parcel in the broader context. Does this comply with the provincial policy statement? Does this comply with the official plan? There's no actual planning analysis or staff report coming in with the special policy area review. What we're doing is we're basically going through just geographically the special policy areas and basically just asking people, well, what are your comments in relation thereto? At least in my experience, this isn't how these types of land use planning studies or reviews are undertaken. Normally, it states up front, here's the purpose of the study, here's what we're willing to do, and the notice seems to indicate that there are inconsistencies between designations, inconsistencies in zonings, land use policy direction changes. So those things were specifically noted in the notice, but none of that has been reflected in the actual presentation that we're looking at tonight. I guess when I look at this, I'm wondering, what is the special policy area problem that we're really trying to solve? And when I pulled the agenda package, when I look at Special Policy Area 4A, there's not really anything for me to respond to. I'm not looking at a planning analysis and saying, okay, well, here's our perspective, or here's our particular 2 cents on the issue. It's just basically saying, here's the special policy area, here's the official plan designation, here's the zoning bylaw. Really what we're trying to do is we're trying to be as forthcoming and at least address the issues as presented. I'm just not sure what we're trying to address here. Now, when also reviewing the agenda package, I see that approximately 70 letters were attached, all of which pertain, I would submit, not really in relation to the special policy area review. They all basically are in relation to our client's application. An application that has not yet been publicly circulated, for which no staff report has been prepared, and which is not actually before council tonight. What we're talking about here, or at least what we should be talking about, is the special policy area review, its purpose, what our objectives are, what we're trying to accomplish, perhaps a planning analysis, a history of the planning of these particular sites, and why it doesn't make sense moving forward. But what we're doing here tonight is we're having a whole bunch of people who, I want to make it clear, we hear their concerns, and we understand their concerns, and I think they've done an excellent job in expressing them, both through the letters and through the oral submissions tonight. But I would submit to you that really what is a big problem here is that this is not, I would submit, the appropriate time or the appropriate forum to hear these concerns. what we're suggesting is that, look, we have an application. We have a number of studies to submit. We have a number of things to do, and what should happen, at least in our respectful submission, is that our application should proceed in the normal course. And it will, ultimately, as you're all aware, have to be approved by council. I would at least suggest that it would be nice for all of these people to have the full copy of the application, all of the relevant reports, everything like that to at least take a look at, and make their comments thusly. They may not change any of the comments here tonight, fair enough. But at least it would put us on an even playing field. Basically, we're here tonight sort of shadow boxing almost, that we're hearing the complaints that they have, but we're not even talking about our application tonight, or our client's application. We're here talking about the special policy areas. And we also don't have Ms. Besh's planning opinion in relation to our applications. There's no staff report for council. As far as I'm aware, none of council has actually seen our application, has actually seen what is being proposed, has not seen a staff report analyzing it, preparing any recommendations for council's consideration. Really, what you're hearing is a whole bunch of concerns, and again, I appreciate the concerns that have been raised, but they're being made without, I would submit, the full facts before you. And at the end of the day, we may or may not be successful with our application. That would be up for council to decide ultimately. But at least thus far, I would say that this is not at least the appropriate time or the appropriate forum to deal with these particular concerns, because not everyone's on the same playing field. They don't even have a copy of our application to review it, or any of the studies, or anything like that to take a look at. I mean, again, we would just submit that let the facts be presented in the normal course. Let's go through the regular process. And again, when this matter comes back before council, or our application comes back before council, I have no doubt that this room will be equally full, if not more full. And perhaps have many different letters and stuff like that to hear about. And finally, I mean, when we're looking at the special policy areas, there are, by my count, approximately 9 or what have you special policy areas, and really, and perhaps unsurprisingly, only one special policy area seems to be the focus of correspondence, comments, at least from the public, and that seems to be 4A. And again, I think what is troubling to us is how this matter has proceeded. We have no problem with people if they want to speak out against our application, but really what this is sort of created is this review. I'm not sure what the purpose of it is, and it's created an opportunity to basically argue against our application before our application is either before council or before the public. And really what is happening is that we're having a debate or a discussion here without all the facts being present. At least, I mean, I think what's really concerning is that, you know, there's a lack of specificity, I would submit, around the special policy areas review. And there's a dearth of correspondence and public comments, sort of, what I'll say, prematurely attacking our client's application. And really what we want to do is not necessarily have that. What we'd like to do is have perhaps, if council wishes, a discussion on special policy areas, but let's actually discuss the planning rationale. Let's actually discuss this. And I know after myself, Jay McGuffin, our planner, is planning on coming up and at least going over some of the planning rationale and some of the planning pieces so that there can be a more fulsome discussion on that for the purposes of the special policy area review. But my main concern is that what we're talking about here, I can appreciate, and I appreciate that the room is full, and I appreciate everyone wants to have their voice heard. We heard a few voices at the last council meeting that we were in attendance at. We've heard some more voices tonight. I think the summarizing job was excellent. I too read through all 70+ pieces of correspondence. I think it was very well summarized, but I'm just saying that right now, at least my argument is that not everyone has everything. Not all of the studies have been submitted. Not council doesn't have appropriate information. even the public doesn't have appropriate information, and I'd at least suggest we be given an opportunity to take our application through the normal course so that if people want to argue against it, fair enough. That is their right, and it is council's right to do what it will in relation to any such application. We're just asking to be provided with the opportunity. And so unless there's any questions for council, I'll pass it up to Jay to at least go over some of the planning stuff so that we can talk about the special policy areas from a planning perspective. Dick,
Any questions on the floor and all that or anything? No, we just spoke about it.
They've had their chance,
Yeah, can we speak for a minute?
I'm just going to allow him to just go over some of the planning facts that he has provided, and then we're going to continue on with any questions or comments for the special policy area.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. Just out of fairness, I do have a fairly lengthy presentation that I would like to make. So if there is a question that we'd like to...
Speak up, we can't hear a word.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I apologize, sir. What I had indicated was if I have a lengthy presentation that I'm going to provide. If there was a quick question to ask by a matter of process, it may be better to...
I just want to, and that's fine, I just want to remind the members of the public is that this isn't going to be a question answer between the people in the audience. This is strictly to have council and staff to hear the thoughts of the public for each special policy area. And I just want to also remind the public that council and myself, I know that myself, I've given a lot of feedback to Aaron for each area. Each one may not have had a lot of comments from council or the public, but each one does have has received feedback to Aaron. So if there is any specific comments for the areas, then please stand up. But we're not going to have a question answer debate.
That's quite fine. My name is Mike Cahill. I live at 1785 Patterson Drive. I think the reason for this meeting is let's get the horse ahead of the cart. In general, this is how democracy works. It's unfortunate for certain businesses that democracy does rule here in Canada, but it does. If people want this human excrement site, then let them put it where it's adjacent to their property. I think that's what basically everybody here is here for, is to make sure that it doesn't end up in our backyard. A lot of the science that the regulations were originally written from, the science came out in 1997, the regulations were written in 2002. Computer technology and testing analysis has come a long way since then. My feeling is there should be a review by the MOE of the standards they set back then and update them so that they're appropriate now. They don't even understand how some of these elements can form compounds that are toxic. So until that has happened, I would like to submit, as others have, that a full review be done before any even consideration of an application goes forward. Thank you.
I have one quick question. Steve Sanders, A930, LaSalle Line, Brook Alveston. Did you guys go through the same procedure you just spoke about in Warwick Township? Because that mountain grew out of control and nobody was really made aware of anything that was going on. From what I understand, that pile was supposed to have been moved a long time ago, and it continues to grow and grow and grow. Dave, the thing is almost at Nauvoo now. We just came over that bridge tonight. All the fancy lawyer battle you just mentioned, did you go through all that in Warwick Township? Yes or no?
But that's not specific to the special policy area review.
But the same thing. Get it stopped before it gets started, because that's out of control.
Okay, is there any other comments in regards to this special policy area? Yes.
Yeah, Byron Stubbs from Annandale. The purpose of this meeting is for land use, like the lawyer said in his opening remarks. It's a land use, and what these folks are talking about is the land use of certain areas within the township. So I don't understand what his argument is. They're saying that they they don't want the land that's in there to be used for that. And that's what this meeting's all about, am I wrong? Because in his opening statement, he said, land use policy. In his first thing, and that's all I'm asking is, what is, that's what these folks are all basically telling about. And I don't understand why they're getting upset about it.
Aaron, you want to address the purpose of the meeting? Or would you like me to talk, or would you like to explain the purpose?
Well, I think that we were here to take a look at the special policy areas. I received direction from council that it was something that they wanted to take a look at, so we're not necessarily discussing, or the purpose of this was not intended to discuss everything that is proposed or is possible on these sites. The purpose of this was to really get public feedback on the potential of the land use study for the special policy areas. As far as
I think what's going on is the boys in Canada are scared of Trump. Trump doesn't spread 1 ounce of this garbage on his land, anywhere in the States, as far as they tell us. And then we have to take it all. I don't mind taking the sludge from Windsor if we have to. It might be a truckload a day, maybe. Here we're getting 6 truckloads from the USA. Why do we have to take our garbage? And do you ever look on the map where our lakes are? How small an area we have? If we pollute that area, we're all be going to kingdom come.
I just want to remind the public.
And how come you're not getting rid of the stuff? It keeps piling up.
I just want to remind the public that we're talking about the special policy areas, not a specific product that could be used in one of the areas. Okay, is there any other comments for this special policy area before I let, sorry, I was,
Sorry, what's your name?
yeah, what did
Mr.
you-
McGuffin.
Mr. McGuffin, there we go, comments, and you did note they are long. If you could have them as short as possible without speaking too quickly.
Thank you, Mayor Smith, and members of council and members of the public. A number of things I want to address tonight, and I'm going to be somewhat lengthy simply because I feel this may be the only opportunity that our client has to present information. First and foremost, with regard to a question that just came up with regard to Warwick, we're here this evening because we've been retained by our client to undertake professional planning advice and assemble the necessary team to put forward an appropriate application with regard to this proposed use. I'm going to supplement the submission made by our client's solicitor and provide a little bit of information about the proposal that is before council, as well as provide planning information in response to the matter before council this evening, being the interim control bylaw special policy area review. So everybody's aware of the subject lands. What the public probably isn't aware of is that the area is 38 hectares of the total property, just under 100 acres. But the area subject to the site plan is about 9 acres in the northwest corner of that property, with an outdoor storage area of approximately 2.8 acres. This is a very sparsely populated area, bound by 3 county roads. These lands are designated for industrial land use and have been such since 1993, and they've been zoned for industrial land use with a holding provision since 1994. And through this presentation, what I'd like to do is try to provide some factual information. I too had an opportunity to review all 70 submissions from the public in full detail, as well as to attend the last meeting and hear the concerns of the public. What we're speaking to this evening is not biosolid. It's not a biosolid waste, and it's not a human sludge. It's a biofertilizer.
I've asked that everyone be respectful. I believe everyone, when you're speaking, have the same respect for everyone that is speaking tonight.
So I take it by the comments from the public, they're aware of the differences between biofertilizer and biosolids. Biofertilizer, I'm going to provide information anyway, is a pelletized material containing high amounts of organic matter. It is produced through the wastewater treatment facilities and treated to remove microorganisms and pathogens. Again, it is not a biosolid. It is a fertilizer that is regulated by the Federal Fertilizers Act and fertilizer regulations and controlled by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. It's also spread on thousands of acres of farmland across the province, and it improves crop yields and soil structure and is part of a circular economy. LaSalle Agri has a significant stake in the local and regional agricultural economy. They service 40,000 acres of land with their product, their biofertilizer, annually. And they've provided biofertilizer to 120,000 acres of client farmland in Middlesex, Lambton, Elgin, Huron, Perth, Chatham, Kent, and Essex counties. Approximately 25% of the Burma family farm holdings are in Adelaide Metcalfe. That's 1,200 acres of land. This parcel was chosen over their other holdings in the area because of its industrial designation and zoning. By way of background information, we met with the township and the county in October, late October, to discuss the proposed application and to ask the regulatory authorities what was required for a complete application. What did our client need to provide to the municipality in order to get site plan approval? We were given the direction on the requirements for a complete application, and then we began to assemble our team of professionals. That included civil engineers with regard to the creation of engineered stormwater management facility, which includes quality and quantity control. That included the retention of a traffic engineer to analyze the traffic from the proposed operation and identify any needs for traffic circulation. It was just by chance that prior to the submission of our application that we learned that the municipality was looking at passing this interim control bylaw. Our client submitted their formal application package for site plan approval on the 10th of April 2019, and that included all of the technical studies that were required. To date, our client has had no opportunity to present any factual details of their proposal or respond to any identified issues or concerns with any of the supporting studies and plans. To date, we have received no comments on our application from the township, but the county has advised that our application met the requirements to determine it complete. So now I'll talk about the land use planning framework. Section 2.3 of the provincial policy statement talks about the agricultural policies. 2331, in prime agricultural areas, permitted uses and activities are agricultural uses, agriculture-related uses, and on-farm diversified uses. Proposed agriculture-related uses and on-farm diversified uses shall be compatible with and shall not hinder surrounding agricultural operations. Criteria for these uses may be based on guidelines developed by the province or municipal approaches. The province also has policies related to employment lands. Those are industrial lands. Policy 131 identifies that planning authorities shall promote economic development and competitiveness. This is a requirement of the municipality or the planning authority. So a municipality must provide opportunities for a diversified economic base, including maintaining a range and choice of suitable sites for employment uses, which support a wide range of economic activities and ancillary uses, and take into account the needs of the existing and the future businesses. Policy 1.3 under the employment land policies identifies that planning authorities shall plan for, protect, and preserve employment areas for current and future uses, and ensure the necessary infrastructure is provided to support current and projected needs. The agricultural areas designation in the county official plan permits the following uses, but not limited to agriculture and related uses and farm-related commercial and industrial uses. So we've moved on from the provincial policy statement into the county official plan. And the county official plan provides, under 335, a number of policies related to farm-related commercial and industrial uses. The commercial industrial operation cannot reasonably be located in a settlement area and must be located in proximity to farming activities. Such uses shall be located to conform with the minimum distance separation formula. An amendment to a zoning bylaw is approved. The commercial or industrial use shall not require large volumes of water nor generate large volumes of effluent. Commercial and industrial uses shall be located and designed to minimize potential adverse impacts on adjacent residential or sensitive uses by buffering, measures such as landscaping, berming, building setbacks, and layouts. The location of commercial and industrial uses must provide for a minimum site distance from the access points in either direction along a county or local road, and the site plan policies of the local official plan. Policy 239 in the local county official plan identifies that agriculture is the cornerstone of the county's economy and culture. And it identifies that the primary use of land shall be agriculture, farm-related industrial, and commercial uses in accordance with the policies in 335. Policy 332 goes on to identify it's a policy of the county council that the agricultural area in the county shall be preserved and strengthened with the goal of sustaining the agricultural industry that is so vital to Middlesex economy. When we move into the local official plan, as you're aware, the special agricultural policy designation 4 currently permits industrial activities on the property. That includes manufacturing. For the benefit of the public, manufacturing is an extremely broad permitted use under an official plan, which includes basically the creation of anything. Wholesaling, warehousing, distribution, repair, servicing, the storage of goods and materials, bulk sales establishments, and accessory uses. The local official plan also has policies that recognize that agriculture provides the major economic base of the municipality, and agriculture is the predominant use of land in the township. The proposed use is solely supportive of the local agricultural industry. As identified, the lands are not only designated for industrial, but they're also zoned for industrial. And again, that permits a wide range of uses, again, including livestock and marketing yards, grain handling and drying, automotive repair, outdoor storage, manufacturing, transportation terminals, warehousing facilities, and wholesaling. Other matters to consider is the Farming and Food Production Protection Act. The definition of an agricultural operation in that legislation identifies that the storage, handling, or use of organic waste for farm purposes is an agricultural operation. The greatest component of the biofertilizer component is organic waste. The Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs have identified biosolid is not a fertilizer and is not a non-agricultural source material or an ASM. There is no nutrient management plan required for this product. Discussions with representatives from both OMAFRA and the Ministry of Environment have been very supportive of our client's operation. And in fact, I had tremendous opportunity to speak with them at length with regard to their Warwick facility. Where can this use be accommodated? Special Policy Area Number 4 is the only industrially designated and zoned site in the township that can accommodate this use as of right. Only light industrial uses are permitted on industrial lands in Kerwood, and a limited range of industrial uses are permitted in the commercial corridor in Special Urban Policy Area 3. Our client has many other locational opportunities in the township, but these require additional planning approvals. These lands are already designated and zoned for this type of use. The subject lands are appropriately designated and zoned. The lands are bound by 3 county roads. These roads are designed to move large volumes of traffic at high speeds through and within the township. Located within a sparsely populated agricultural area, there are 0 occupied dwellings within a 400-meter radius. There are 3 occupied dwellings within a 700-meter radius, and there are 5 occupied dwellings within a 1-kilometer radius of the site. That is well beyond any distance that would normally be affected by an MDS separation from the most intensive livestock operations we have in the province. In terms of technical studies and design work, a traffic impact study was completed and submitted. A stormwater management design report was completed and submitted. A site plan was completed and submitted. What was not asked for but is underway is an emissions summary and a dispersion modeling report for an environmental activity and sector registry. That has been completed and drafted. We're just awaiting the odor component to finalize that for submission to the municipality. We anticipate that within the next 3 weeks. Informed by our client's previous experiences in other municipalities, our client has undertaken professional services to ensure that what they are doing is done correctly. We've consulted with the various ministries, we've consulted with the municipality, we've consulted with the county, and we've put forward a professional application supported by sound planning and engineering science. With regard to the design process, the site plan provides for an impervious concrete base, berming and landscaping are provided. There's an engineered stormwater management facility with an oil and grit separator controlling the quality and the quantity of the water in accordance with the MECP requirements. The traffic study was completed, the access route was confirmed, and no traffic improvements were required as a result of that study. There were no issues identified within the future 2024 total traffic volume road capacity. November to August, there's an anticipated maximum 6 truckloads per day at the height of activity. Trucks will arrive from the north on County Road 6, turn left onto County Road 8, and then turn right to enter into the facility. From July to November, there will be 10 truckloads per day outgoing at the height of activity. Truck traffic will be dispersed equally in the 4 cardinal directions. Our client is also aware of the spring load restrictions on County Road 8 west of Kerwood Road and will advise their drivers accordingly.
How much longer is your presentation?
Just about complete. I'm on to my conclusions. So, in recap, this property is the only site that is designated and zoned for industrial purposes outside of the settlement area or commercial corridor in the municipality. The industrial lands are a vital source of employment. The PPS charges council with planning for and protecting employment lands for the current and future uses. The site is appropriately located in a sparsely populated area bound by 3 county roads. The proposed use is solely supportive of the agricultural industry, having serviced 120,000 acres in the region so far. There is a high demand for the product to support the thriving agricultural industry in the township and the county. Numerous studies have been or are being undertaken to evaluate and mitigate potential impacts to the surrounding areas. Our client has close to 1,200 acres of alternative lands designated for agricultural uses in the township. Of those, these are the only lands appropriately designated and zoned. It would make no practical sense to consider one of those other sites for this use, given the land use makeup of the subject lands and the surrounding environment. In our opinion, this site is appropriately designated and zoned to accommodate employment land uses, and it should not be subjected to an interim control bylaw.
Okay, is there anyone else wishing to speak to this special policy area? Yes?
Hugh McKellar, 242 as a previous customer of LaSalle Agri, I had concerns over the variability of the product that I was receiving. So I actually sent tests from each truckload because of the extreme variability that I was seeing, and discovered that there was a huge variability from load to load. And even though this is a federally regulated industry, it does not necessarily get the oversight that it should. I no longer use that product, mostly because you do not know what you're getting from load to load. And also I have to say this, the cowboy attitude of, at that time, David, who was working for his father at that time, really didn't sit too well with me in his indifference to just personal things. I was riding around with him, there was people sitting there, I said, just don't spread up over there. Oh, we do it all the time. And then he turned the thing back on, just to see him run. Not good.
Yes, we want to remind the public that this is regarding the use of the property, so the special policy area for either the 4A or 4, generally. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just wanted the fellow just up there, he made reference to the Fertilizer Act on there. And he calls this stuff biofertilizer, but in the Fertilizer Act, he knows what this stuff is, and it's classified as, not as biosolids, but processed sewage. If the gentleman, and I think he's misleading the people here to think it's quote biofertilizer, because it's not biofertilizer. It's processed sewage under the Fertilizer Act. And also, what I'd like to ask, what he doesn't address here is, in the Fertilizer Act, there's a section that states that does a fertilizer produce a risk to the humans, plants, animals, and environment? And he didn't mention that in his, whether or not what he's planning here, is there such a risk to the environment on this? That's all.
Okay, Mike Cato once again. When this property was zoned industrial or light industrial, I'm sure that they didn't foresee communities like Toronto, Detroit, Windsor shipping in human waste to be stored on that site. It was for what were deemed to be commercial industrial purposes at that time. Can someone verify that when these regulations actually came out or when the zoning came out?
Aaron, do you have any of those dates? I know that was mentioned in previous comments, but do we know from Township's perspective as when it was designated?
The furthest back documents that we could find was the Metcalfe official plan and zoning bylaw 1993-1994, which the property was already designated and zoned with this special policy area. So to be honest, I'm not sure what the intent was at the time. Or, we might have to go digging a bit further to find out what the actual was contemplated at the time.
Curtis?
Yes.
I think I was on council when they set up that official plan.
Your, just name and address, please.
Brett Cahill, and I live at 1745 North. I'm pretty sure I was on council at the time when we decided that we needed an official plan. We designated areas that we wanted growth, napier, and different things too. And I'm pretty sure that we had to have something in our municipality for, what's that zone for?
Industrial.
Yeah. It got that designation because we needed someplace to put that designation. I think if we, in hindsight, we saw this coming, we would have never, ever zoned it that way.
See a hand in the back?
Gail Cahill, 1745 Miller Drive. My only comment, they've all been said many, many times, is that we do need, obviously, the interim bylaw, because I would like to know when some of these studies have been done, because when the gentleman up front has mentioned some of them, they pertain to my business. My business could very well say, we get people from all over the world, and we are maybe a kilometer away from there. And it's seasonal, so when were these studies done? Am I going to not be able to do business for 6 or 8 months of the year because these studies were done in a different time of the year? So there's studies to be, I'm not saying that you can't do business, but it's just not the appropriate spot, and it is very high residential.
Pam McLean, Winter Drive. I simply want to make a point that with respect to sparsely populated, I think you can tell from the people that are here that area is not sparsely populated. The whole village of Napier and all the rural residential homes down Kerwood Road. I know you're quoting kilometer, what have you, but it is not a sparsely populated agricultural or rural area. It's highly populated, actually.
Okay, is there any more comments directly related to the Special Agricultural Policy Area 4 that has not been said yet? Okay, is there any comments from council?
Just a comment, I think we need to look at this area, and obviously it's a big debate. We're gonna have to do some studies or look at some studies done, I would think, at our end.
Any other comments from council? Councilor McKinnon?
I think it'll be beneficial for council to see the site plan and make it public to the ratepayers so they can see what the proposal is and go forward from there.
Any other comments? Deputy Hendricks?
Yeah, and I share the concern that this is kind of happening out of order. We're getting concerns, and I understand the concerns about biosolids, and I was around for interim control bylaws on hog barns, and the letters are almost identical. I understand the community concerns with this. I also know that as a municipal council, there are some things we have no control over, and what we're trying to talk about is what we do have control over. We can't do anything to the MOE. The people in here can speak to their MPs and their MPPs about regulations. I've spoken to different people, and I think we all have a lot to learn. I am just in the process of learning what all the NASM storage and other rules are, but as a township council, I'm not sure how much control we have over that. We control zoning and official plans, and we have to work with that, and we have to do the proper process. So I'm hoping we can get to that shortly.
Okay. So any other comments? Okay. Seeing none.
Just an observation, listening to the dates of the history of this, and
Can I just your name?
sorry, Trev Keller, 1457 Melvin Drive. I just wonder whether this product even existed back when these things were zoned and designated. I don't know that, I haven't checked on it or not, but again, echoing what Fred said about, what was envisaged. I mean, if something didn't even exist back then, and it seemed to be of use to the agriculture community, it obviously is something that's risen differently since that time, and I think should be reconsidered.
Just one quick comment. I agree with Councilor Brody. Council, you do need to do studies on this. Lots of studies. It might even take several years before you get all these studies done. But don't overlook any of them. There may be hills to climb, and it might take months and months and months to get these done, and years. But make sure you
30 years.
Do your homework.
Yeah, I do. It's pretty transparent. I think, so I went and looked at we can do studies, but we're impeding business. There have been regulations about NASM materials since shortly when you had to start doing nutrient management plans. They had to start, that's when these properties these materials have been regulated. And there is a whole lot of regulation, and it's only as good as the provincial people can do it. But I think we'd be irresponsible if we just carried on for months for no reason. We wouldn't do it to other businesses.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. My name is George Sinker. I'm with Learners LLP, and I represent the clients in Special Agricultural Policy Area 4B. But the question relates in general to any of these special policy areas. Should you choose to adopt an interim bylaw to allow you to do those studies, and if you should in those studies find that there is something in the existing special policy areas that you think is inconsistent, do you know, or could Aaron tell us if the municipality could initiate an official plan amendment in its own right and the rezoning of the property, should you choose to eliminate some of the uses in the special policy area?
Karen?
I think what, we haven't discussed what the terms of the study will be, or what the recommendations will be. But it could be something to the effect of directing that during the next official plan review, it's something that needs, to be reconciled, or, whether it is a municipally initiated official plan review. I'm not sure what direction from council will be. So.
But there is the possibility of the municipality initiating an OP amendment.
I believe that would be what might be the idea.
Thank you.
Megan McLean, 1626 Winter Drive. Just a quick point, I don't think that impeding business outweighs impeding quality of life, impeding environment, and impeding people's health.
With that, we're going to move on to the special policy area 4B. Is there anyone wishing to speak to this special policy area? It's the same information that is for the 4A, correct, Erin?
Correct. And this policy area is located Calvert Drive, Melbourne Road, and Denning Road. So I will identify as well that there is a corner parcel that has recently been severed by the landowner, which is actually designated Hamlet Residential, so it is not subject to the special policy area.
And, excuse me, and that was not initiated by this landowner, it was his brother.
Okay, I do apologize, I'm so sorry. By a separate landowner.
Okay, is there anyone in the gallery wishing to speak to this special policy area? Members of council, Councillor Clark.
Aaron, as it relates to this, because those two lots were, well, it was actually one lot that was already there and it was divided into two. So does that mean we're gonna have to change some of the parameters around that property, given the close proximity to the Hamlet Residential?
Well, I think the biggest concern was that it is designated Hamlet Residential. Is there something that needs to be put in place should the special policy area be restricted to perhaps a smaller location on the property? The property is currently being used by the landowner here. So that would be something that would be addressed as potential incompatibility issues between residential and industrial.
Okay. Is there any other comments on this special policy area? Aaron, is there anything in addition you'd like to add?
So we've discussed the special policy areas, we've also discussed the potential for an interim control bylaw. I just wanted to give a quick overview so that everybody sort of understands what that process is. So the purpose of the interim control bylaw is to temporarily restrict or freeze all development in a defined area to allow the municipality an opportunity to review and respond to a significant planning issue that has arisen. The bylaw is in place for up to 1 year in order to give municipal staff time to review the issue and bring forth recommendations to council regarding possible courses of action. In this particular case, council has identified the need for a review of the special policy areas within the township. If the interim control bylaw is passed, staff will be directed to undergo a study of the areas discussed this evening as they relate to these policies in the official plan and regulations in the zoning bylaw. So going forward, the first step will be for staff to draft a terms of reference to bring back to council outlining the recommended study process. Typical process for a study of this nature would include a background report, history of the properties, current planning regulations and policies. Public consultation will be a process as well, and ultimately a list of recommendations for council's consideration drafted anything as of right now, and we're looking to council for that direction.
Okay, thank you, Erin. Is there any other comments from council? Seeing none, what I'd like to do before I have a motion to close the public meeting, I just want to thank everyone in attendance for coming out and voicing your opinions on and thoughts and comments on all the special policy areas. And thank you for being as respectful as you were during this whole process. And following the, once the motion is passed to close the public meeting, council will consider passing an interim control bylaw as Aaron has. So we have a motion to resolve that the public meeting regarding special policy areas within the township of Adelaide Metcalfe be closed at 8:55 p.m. Okay, Councillor Clark and Councillor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And we do have now a motion that is in front of us if council wishes, and that is to resolve that council approve the passing of the interim control bylaw for special agricultural policy areas 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, as well as special urban policy areas 2 and 4. If anybody wishes to move that. Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Clark. Any discussion? Deputy Mayor Hendricks?
So we have, I just wanted to clarify, we have up to a year to work on this. Okay.
And
Councillor McKinnon?
through you, Mayor Curtis, to Aaron, the interim control bylaw is not appealable, is it?
No, just by the Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If I will, since I didn't speak to some of this policy areas, Jennifer, could you go back in the slides to the first one through to the last one, just so I can give some comments?
4A?
All the way up.
Oh, all the way up.
Yeah. So the way I look at the council putting in an interim control bylaw for the special agriculture policies as well as the special urban policies, it came to our attention after the interim control bylaw that we put in for the commercial corridor area outside of Strathroy. We already looked at those special policy areas, and the next step for that was looking at all the remaining special policy areas before we do potential of the 5-year review, even though I know that the ministry is going to put a stall date on that. So I just want to give some comments as to each special policy area. So in this one here, the way I look at that is that that special policy area was there for a restaurant and convenience store, which was there some time ago. That's not there anymore, and we should probably be cleaning that up. I think it's a very cut and dry situation. So, thanks. Looking at this special policy area, it's for the restaurant and motel, which is still in use. There is not a restaurant there, but there is the motel, and to that extent, I believe that is not something that council is really too much concerned of, because it is still in use and it's the policy. It makes sense to today's date. This special policy area, which is at the Egremont and Center Road 22 and 81. Looking at that, there's a lot of interest from the property owner, and it's unfortunate that they weren't in attendance tonight to give their thoughts to this property. It is an area that did have a gas bar and a motel, and the council will need to seriously look at that to see if the size is appropriate for that site, as there isn't any services there. Looking at this area, with the campground, trailer park, and that are permitted along there, that's currently in use, and I don't think that's an area that's in real true concern of council, but it's never a bad idea to look at that. Special policy area 6. To me, this is, when I first saw this, it didn't make any sense to me at all that we would have the special policy. There was already a dwelling there, and for the second dwelling in the PPS and in the Planning Act, there's the direction is to have a secondary dwelling. So in all reality, it's really not needed, and that's why I think with this one it would make sense to do that review. With this, as it was already noted, that was the park, the Centennial Park, which is now owned by a place of worship, a church, and with the administration office and building, it's one of those ones where at the time it made sense, but we need to do that review and it could be potentially be removed. This area with the indoor storage and warehousing in public use, there could be some concern of the neighboring areas, as Councillor Clark alluded to, and with the greenhouse, which is already existing there, it would make sense for that to stay as the use is already being permitted. As I mentioned during the public meeting, looking at this area, it would be nice if there was a gas bar permitted and a restaurant and motel. However, with the servicing only on the south side of the 402, it's hard for that to happen, and we are concentrating a lot of our commercial corridor use in the service area from the 402 down to Panel Lane. In this area, as one of the members of the public alluded to, this area was designated some time ago, and it's my understanding is that when it was in the former Metcalfe, the reason that this was designated to be an industrial area is because that was the only area that council saw fit to have an industrial area in the official plan, and that was because it was the only land that was surrounded by 3 county roads. And council, over the years, when looking at the official plan reviews, it was just overlooked. And that is an area that needs to be looked at. And also, when we're looking at the storage of goods, and I think that's what a lot of the discussion here tonight was regarding the storage of goods, and looking at that interpretation is what that means. So that's an area that I believe we should be looking at. And that goes the same for the next policy area, which would be the second area there, and it is very close to the hamlet area. So I just wanted to put those comments out there before we go ahead with the motion for this potential control bylaw for the municipality. Is there any other comments from council before we put the motion forward? Okay, and that was moved and seconded. It was some time ago after I spoke while it was moved and seconded, that's correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I'd like to ask that this be a recorded vote.
So we'll go in alphabetical order. So we'll start with Councillor Brody.
I'm for the interim control bylaw.
Okay, so just one so this is for the motion. It's to resolve that council approve the passing of an interim control bylaw for special policy areas 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7, as well as special urban policy areas 2 and 4. And I've asked for a recorded vote, so a yes would be in favor and a no would be opposed.
Yes.
Councillor Clark.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hendricks.
Yes.
Councillor McKinnon.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes. So that motion is passed. And moving on our agenda, I believe that was the last item. I just have to double check. If there's nothing else from council for other business, we will go to the bylaws. And we need a motion from council to resolve that all 3 readings be given to bylaw number 37 of 2019, the data fix agreement, bylaw number 38, 2019, County of Middlesex Play It Forward program agreement, bylaw number 39 of 2019, the property standards bylaw, bylaw number 40 of 2019, tidy yard bylaw, bylaw number 41 of 2019, interim control bylaw for special policy areas, and bylaw number 42 of 2019, confirmed council proceedings, and then the bylaws be signed by the mayor, clerk, and the corporate seal be attached. Mover and seconder? Councillor Brody and Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. And with that, we need a motion to adjourn at 9:04 p.m. Councillor Clark and Councillor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed and carried. Thank you very much for coming out.